Sailrite Sewing Machine. This is the UltraFeed LSZ-1 Premium, and the way Sailrite sewing machines work are there are two main types. There's the LSZ-1 and I think the other one is called the LS1. And the difference between those two is the LS1 only does straight stitches and the LSZ does a zigzag stitch in addition to the straight stitch. There are 4 different levels that you can get. Well, actually, I guess there's only 3. There's the Premium 110, the Premium 220 volt, the Plus, and the Basic. So the Basic is this one down here that just has the sewing machine and it has the wooden base. And then the Plus and the Premium have the carry case. The difference between the Plus and the Premium is the Premium has this larger 1/4 horsepower motor, where the Plus and Basic have the 1/10 horsepower motor. Now the Premium package also includes a bunch of extra things like a needle assortment, the kickstand, the left roping zipper foot, magnetic sewing guide, swing away binder, the larger monster balance wheel, and some other stuff there. This came from the Annapolis boat show. The prices for Sailrites, they're pretty firm. They're not going to do a special boat show price. But if you look at the Basic that just has the wooden stand and not a lot of the extras there, it's about $1,000. And you go up to the Premium, which is the highest level, and that's $1,600. The boat show special, even though they don't discount the prices, is they gave free shipping. So normally this would cost, I think they said $60 to $70 to ship this to Maryland from their factory, I believe, in Indiana. So we saved that. So this one here is, of course, the LSZ-1 Premium. So we're going to unbox it, take a look at what's inside the boxes. What we got, they came in 2 boxes. So there's this smaller box right here, and then there's a larger box. I don't know what's in the smaller box, but maybe it is some of the extras that came with the Premium package. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's inside. So the smaller box, we'll open that up. Okay, so inside the smaller box, what we've got, yeah, just what I expected, all the extra stuff. So there's a deluxe seam ripper. There is a double-sided lint brush for cleaning the lint out of the machine. The famous 1-inch swing away straight binder. So that's for putting bindings on the edges of material and such. Now we've got some of the needles, it looks like. Number 20, number 16, number 18s. This is part of that zipper foot. So this is the left zipper foot, so you're putting zippers on, and you only want to have one, I guess, one foot there because the zipper takes space on the other side. Another box of needles, and those are number 14s. And this thing here is the kickstand for the UltraFeed industrial carrying case. So where this thing here goes is on the back of the machine. So if you need to lift the machine up out of the case, this prevents it from flopping all the way to the other side. This here is the corded foot set for the Sailrite UltraFeed. So this is for like, this is the foot part. You can see this is for like if you're putting cording that goes in the edges of upholstery or on the corners of upholstery. That helps it feed through the machine a little easier. And then this thing has been sticking to everything in the package, but this is the magnetic sewing guide. It can stick right to the machine anywhere because it's all metal, and then you can use that as your guide to guide your stitch distance from the edge. And then there's this big thing here. This one is heavy. Not sure what's in that, but it's heavy. And then look at this, $100 wine voucher, $100 wine voucher, $100 wine voucher from Naked Wines. I'm sure it's like if you spend $1,000 worth of wine. And then there's the Sailrite little advertisement. Some packing paper in the box. And now what is in this big box here? This thing is heavy. Yeah, we can Yeah, so that's the balance wheel. This is heavier than the standard, which gives it a little more momentum. And then there's the handle for it right there. So that's what's in there, is the balance wheel with one hand. All right, so that's the small box. Now let's take a look in the big box. And this has the LSZ-1 Premium in it with the Worker Bee power pack, and I believe that's the larger quarter horsepower motor, larger than the standard 1/10 horsepower. And a couple staples in there as well. And now we've got multiple boxes inside the big box. Here's a quick overview of the unboxing. The video itself was way too long, so I cut it down some. This first box has the case in it. Here's the inside of the case. This is where the machine will eventually go. This smaller box has several things in it. There's the power pack, there's the LED light, there's the thread stand, there's the empty box, and here's the machine itself. The machine itself was very heavy, and it took a little bit to get it out of there. This first thing here, this is the original wheel that comes with it. I upgraded to the Monster balance wheel. And there it is. It came with several patches here. They're test patches that they sewed at the factory. And there are like at least 8 layers of canvas there on this one. This next one had about a couple layers of canvas, I think. Here we are taking it out of the styrofoam and trying to put it in the case. One mistake I made is I didn't watch the assembly video first, so I made this much harder than it needed to be. But eventually, I got it in there, and I cut all those parts out where I was having difficulty putting it in. So it looks much easier here, but this thing is heavy. And there we go, it's in, just like that. The magic of video editing. And there is the machine. That little piece there is a big piece of naga hide that's probably at least 4 or 6 layers, something like that, that they use as their last test before it gets shipped out. So it's amazing how thick some of this stuff is that this machine can sew through. Now this is that first bag I pulled out. There's a bunch of stuff in here. I'm going to open that up and take a look. This first thing here is the power pack. So the power pack has this little knob on the top there that allows you to adjust the speed of the machine. These are the manuals. The manual for assembly as well as some other books. Here's the foot pedal right there. And this thing here, this is some thread. The premium package came with a big spool of thread, UV resistant thread. And then there's the cord that plugs into the wall to turn the whole thing on. And there's the power pack again. So now we're going to try to put the power pack on and do some assembly. Now these manuals were all buried fairly deep in there, you could see. I wish they would have been a little bit closer to the surface. It would have been easier to figure out how everything goes together, because I made a couple of mistakes and made it more difficult for myself putting it together. But the first thing just kind of explains how this works, and there's the actual assembly instructions. Even the assembly instructions were a little confusing, but they have tons of YouTube videos that are a lot clearer than the instructions. And there's the big guidebook, spiral bound, lots of pages in there. And here we're going to try to mount the power pack on the back. So here's the power pack. There's a couple screws that you take out and you put back in. Now this thing came with this wheel. I upgraded to the larger monster wheel right here. And the belt that's on there originally goes with the smaller wheel, and it doesn't fit the monster wheel. And it actually came with a larger belt, which I initially thought was an extra belt, but it's actually a larger belt for the monster wheel. This thing here is the belt cover, so that has to go on before the wheel goes on. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to put it on. And it's actually, once you get the screws in there and put the wheel on, it's really difficult to adjust the screws if you have to adjust the belt cover so it doesn't rub the belt, which I had to do. And I say really difficult, it wasn't that difficult, but it was a process. So here goes the monster wheel. And this is really easy to put on there, put the belt on there. It just wraps on just like you would put a bike chain onto a sprocket. And this thing here is the posi pin. This is the pin that goes through the wheel and attaches it to the drive system of the needle. So it has a little spring on there and a detent that holds it in the spot. The center position here is just kind of a placeholder for it. And then once you need it, you take it and you slide it into one of the holes and rotate it around until it drops into the next hole. And then that's what connects the motor to the drive system. And if you wanted to wind a bobbin, you take that posi pin out, put it in the middle, and then it lets you spin the wheel without spinning the needle. It also came with some oil, sewing machine oil. And here, everything here is pretty much put together. We had to plug the motor in, so this little plug here goes from the motor into the power pack. And then this is the cord that goes from the power pack into your wall outlet. And this is the spool stand or the thread stand for a small household style thread. This is the LED light. It's a magnetic light that clips onto the sewing machine. And there's actually an outlet for it in the back of the power pack. The one thing I don't like about this is that it's not built into the machine. The light itself, the plastic kind of feels a little cheap. It's okay, it has some of these pieces here that are designed to secure the cord from the light to keep it out of the way. It's basically zip ties, and then this plugs into the back of the machine in the power pack area there, which is nice that they include the outlet so you don't have to find a separate outlet. And then it just clips on with the magnet just like this. And here is the pedal. It has a 1/4 inch TRS plug. This also plugs into the back of the power pack, right in this spot right here. And right now everything is together. Okay, so here is the Sailrite Ultrafeed setup and ready to sew. A couple things that since I unpacked it that I noticed. I actually unpacked it yesterday or the day before, and then I went back and looked at the videos on the unpacking and assembly. So some of the things that I found when I unpacked it made a little more sense watching the video. So I would recommend watching the video first, because the actual instructions are not 100% clear in some things, but the video it explains everything perfectly, and they had tons of good videos on the Sailrite YouTube channel. So a couple things that I did since then was, the first is this piece right here. This is the spool holder, and it's the one that attaches here, and it's got like a little wood insert. If we unscrew this here, you can see there's a little wood insert that I had to put in there, and it just twists in there, and then it has this little threaded thumb screw thing that goes on there, and you tighten that up. And now one thing I did not realize until watching the video is you loosen that up, and this actually slides in. Once you get that out of the way, so you can have that in there when you close it up. They gave me this big thing of thread here as part of that premium package. One of the things that I also thought was interesting is the kickstand. It kind of doesn't work the way I expected it to, but this is the kickstand piece right here, and what all that is just a piece of metal, a couple bends in it with some rubber things on it, and it fits into a little slot back there, and it goes like that. So when you lift the machine back, and this thing is heavy, but when you lift it back, right here at the very bottom, so right there, there is the little mount that the motor fits in, or that the motor sits on, rests right there on top of this kickstand. So if you didn't have the kickstand in there, what happens is that metal happens to hit the case right along this little groove edge, which is where the upper part of the case nests. So you definitely need to have that kickstand in when you go flipping this thing back. The other thing it looks like it does is it transfers the weight a little bit further aft of the sewing machine, so it doesn't flip over backwards. And compared to my old sewing machine, this thing is a monster. I think this balance wheel alone weighs more than my old sewing machine did. But that's it. It's all set up, and I just actually sewed something with it. I make these chafe protectors for my dock lines. So I just put one of those together. I got one more I'm going to sew. I'll do that here in a minute. As far as like all the setup and everything goes, there's a really good YouTube video on the Sailrite webpage that tells you how to do that. It tells you how to thread, or how to put the thread through there in the right spaces. And so I've done all that. It's pretty standard, similar to any other machine really. This is the magnetic guide thing. I really wanted to get that because it clamps on there and allows you to keep a distance between whatever it is that you're sewing. And that's about it. Overall, I mean, it's definitely a very high quality machine, and I was doing a little bit more reading on it on the internet, and I guess they classify this as a portable industrial sewing machine. So that's why it's so as big and heavy as it is. But the big difference between a regular industrial sewing machine, from what I can see, is the distance between here and here. Usually an industrial machine, this is a little bit wider distance, I guess, for putting bigger things through there. So, but I guess for my purposes, this works well. And first impressions is that it looks really good. If I had to give a critique of some different things on it, a lot of the things on here look almost kind of like afterthought ideas. Like they designed the machine and then they tried to fix some various problems that have happened with it or whatever. A couple examples of that are, one is the light. I mean, I don't know why it doesn't have an integrated light, but the light works okay. It sticks on there with a magnet. Other thing that is kind of like an afterthought thing, which I think is interesting, is this little piece right here. It's a little piece of elastic, and apparently what this is for is if you're sewing something that's fragile, or like the Strataglass type material, or something that can be snagged easily. This edge here, some of these things, just because the nature of how they're made, being stamped metal, they have like slight burrs on the edge and such. And if you were using something sensitive, it could get caught on this or scratched or whatever. So what this thing is they just put a couple of snaps on there, and it snaps onto the snaps. And then if you're doing something something fragile, you just take that up there, and you can use it to cover it up. They recommend also that you take this and open it up and let that drop inside there, and now you have something soft for that material to rub against. The kickstand definitely, I thought, seemed kind of afterthought-ish, but overall it still looks like, I mean, it's definitely, the machine itself is definitely high quality. So I'm going to go ahead and sew another one of these. Well, this material that I got, I bought this a couple years ago, and I went on eBay and bought some heavy Sunbrella canvas fabric, that I wanted to use for patches and things like that. And I like bought a yard. I think it was like a yard or something like that. And what they actually sent me was like a remnant or the end of a spool, which the roll itself is two of these long. So I mean, it's a huge roll. It's like, it seems like it's like 5 feet tall, and there was still a ton left on it. So I ordered a yard, but I don't know how much. I got a ton. So that was kind of a win in the fabric department. But normally what I do for these here is I just cut off a strip, iron it just to keep it flat, because it's hard to keep. This material is kind of heavy, so it's hard to keep it flat while you're sewing it. So it's just a real simple fold over, and then I hem the ends as well just to clean them up. Normally I cut it with a hot knife. I didn't cut this with a hot knife, so it's a little bit frayed on the edges because the hot knife is at the boat right now. So I'm going to go to the boat here in a couple hours, and I'll bring the hot knife back for any more cutting. But let me go ahead and try to sew this thing. All right, I'm on the boat again. We just went out for a quick sail, and as you can see from behind me out there, it had a cloud come in. It's starting to rain, but we just beat the rain. So just wanted to real quick show you those covers, the chafe covers that I have for our dock lines that I sewed on the Sailrite sewing machine. So there's one right there. And what that does is that protects the dock lines from chafe. You can see the dark blue there, and then the dock line runs right through that. So the next projects for the Sailrite sewing machine will include some winch covers for the winches, and also this cover here for the pedestal and the wheel. It's got, you can see it's got some wear and tear in different places there. So that needs replaced. So I think that's what I'll work on for the next couple projects, kind of easy projects to kind of get into it. And eventually the plan is to redo all of the cushions inside the boat. So that's going to be a little bit bigger project, so I think I want to start with some small projects first. I could probably make the winch covers and maybe even this cover for the pedestal with the scrap material that I have, or the extra material that I ordered from eBay. Or I could try to order again from eBay and see if I get as much as I did last time. But that's kind of the plan for now. Practice working on some of this umbrella fabric, and do some little projects here and there. So that's all for this week's Sailrite unboxing. Oh, one thing I almost forgot. Check out the cool hat that I got for free air quotes, from Sailrite when I bought the machine. They gave it to me right at the show, and it's pretty nice. It's a nice all cotton, 100% cotton hat, and I like the little white piping across the brim there. It looks pretty cool, and it's got the Sailrite logo on there. So that's all for this week, or that's all for this video. And hopefully as I start making these projects, I might post some videos on how I'm doing those. Thanks for those of you who have subscribed and liked. If you haven't already, go ahead and click the link down below and like and subscribe. See you later.